Hi, and welcome to a brand new episode of Podcast Your Story. I am your host, Dr. Julie Marty-Pearson, and I am so excited to be back. I started this podcast well over a year ago, probably a year and a half now, and I've recorded amazing interviews with so many different inspiring female podcasters since then. But I haven't put out a new episode in at least a year. You know, when I started this podcast, it was because at the same time, I had completely shifted my business from career coaching to podcast coaching. What does that mean? I help women just like you become awesome podcast guests or start their own show just like I did almost 4 years ago with the story of my pet. So I paused it after 6 episodes because I realized that not everybody was here to listen because they wanted to start a podcast. For one, listeners want to be inspired by my friends, my fellow podcasters' journey in podcasting, why they started, what they're doing with it, and how it has changed their life. Because every woman I have met who has started a podcast, it has changed their life. So I paused and decided to really get a sense of what people needed, especially women, in podcasting. Was it guesting? Was it launching? Was it growing? Was it monetization? What I found is it's all of the above. And I can attest to that. I'm working on all those areas in my business and my podcasts. But I wanted to pause because I really wanted to get an idea of what I was doing with my business in podcasting. So Podcast Your Story Productions has had an evolution. It includes a lot of different things, including this podcast, my original podcast, which still exists, The Story of My Pet. It also includes my community, the Women's Podcaster Party, where I host networking events every month. And it also includes the brand new Podcast Your Story community membership. I'm super excited about that. It's a very low-cost membership to become a part of, to get more of my coaching in groups and one-on-one, as well as more hands-on workshops, more accountability time, more co-working space, and more practice. I have so many women asking me, how do I start being a guest? I don't even know how to be prepared to be interviewed. I also have friends who are podcasters that need help with being good interviewers. So there's all these things I have learned over the last year and a half that I am ready to come back, bring it to you, share what I've learned, share how I've grown, and support you in being a podcaster too. Whether that's a podcast host of your own show, whether that's a podcast guest being strategic about which podcast you guest on, whether you're a speaker and want to get into podcasting, whether you have a podcast and want to grow, all of the above. You're going to learn from me and all of my amazing friends and fellow podcasters. And I'm very excited to start back with a big one. A big one for me. This is someone who I found her podcast. I listened. I loved it. I dove in. I kept listening. I started following her on social. I was engaging with her. And one day I said, I'm just going to ask her to be on my podcast. So on Instagram, I believe, I DM'd Madison. I said, hey, I love your podcast. I love what you're doing. I would love to have you come on my podcast. And she said, yes. This is the power of podcasting. You know, now I will say, since I've recorded this, Madison has blown up even more. And I will definitely be asking if she can come back for a follow-up for you guys because, wow, she has made some incredible accomplishments. So please check out the next episode of Podcast Your Story, where I will be sharing my interview with Madison McKee of Ice Cold Case. And I know you're going to enjoy that conversation. I have so many more amazing interviews to share. After Madison's episode, I will be sharing another episode with someone who I would call a big one too. And I mean, it's silly. We're all podcasters, but we're all doing it for different reasons. We're all in front of different audiences for different reasons, so many different things. But my next episode after that is with someone I do consider a friend, even though we've only technically met virtually once, and that is Melissa. She is known as your beach therapist. If you're a Bravo fan, you know what that means. But I talked to Melissa about some pretty serious topics. We also have some fun. I think kind of very similarly, I'm putting Madison and Melissa out around the same time because I think both of what they're doing is a heavy, big topic. Madison with a true crime podcast about her father's unsolved murder, and Melissa, who is a licensed therapist, a several-time cancer survivor. And she, even though her podcast is about Bravo reality shows, I mean, reality shows, not all Bravo, but reality shows, she kind of does this therapist breakdown of all of your favorite reality shows, which is why I love her and why I started following her. I originally actually heard her as a guest on Amy Phillips' Drama Darling podcast, also an amazing pop culture and reality show based podcast. And through learning about her, following her, and then now listening to her own podcast, Melissa really touches on so many important topics when it comes to both mental health, but also women and women's health. And so I asked her to be on the podcast because at the time of when I recorded my interview with her, I had lost a friend, a fellow podcaster. Many of you listening know and love Rebecca Johnson. She was the host of Love Is Not Dead, Just My Husband. Amazing podcaster, amazing voice, story, all the things. And unfortunately, she passed away in the fall of 2024 from her cancer that after 5 years had come back and metastasized. And it was really hard for me. I always like to say, I didn't know her well, but how many of you know people via social media, via Zoom, via podcasting, whatever it is you do that you may have never physically been in a room with someone, but you still consider them a friend? And that was Rebecca, and that was anyone that's ever met Rebecca. Everyone was her friend the moment you met her. I was very lucky to have actually gotten to hang out with her in person at Podfest 2024, at which there was an award ceremony for women in podcasting, and I was nominated. Thank you. Many of my friends were, and Rebecca was. And she had actually also been nominated for People's Choice, which she very openly and happily shared with people and got people to vote for her. And she won. And it was electric. It was such an amazing experience to be in the room with her, be in the room with so many of my podcaster friends I had never met in person before, be in a room full of women and non-binary podcasters winning awards and celebrating each other. And it was just an amazing experience. So much so that myself and Rebecca and some other fellow podcasters, shout out to Ina Coveney and Josie Falcone, the four of us decided to submit to do a panel at this year, 2025 Podfest. We did, and we got accepted. And the day we found out we got accepted, we also found out Rebecca had passed away. I haven't talked about that for a while. So through that process of mourning her and talking to friends and all of us who were mourning her, we did virtual space for each other to share and kind of celebrate her. There was a in-person funeral, but it was on the East Coast and I wasn't able to go. So it was just a lot. She was my age and it was sudden in the end. We knew it was possible, but it just happened really quickly. And she was that person that everybody thought was going to make it. So I had reached out to Melissa, knowing not only was she a therapist, but a cancer survivor. And I said, I really want to talk about this and talk about how podcasting can help with it, but also just people out there who have a friend going through something. How do you help them? And so very graciously, Melissa agreed to be on my podcast. And I recorded an interview with her talking about that, as well as many other things and her journey in podcasting. So that will be the next episode coming out after Madison's. And I know that you are really going to enjoy that too. Maybe a little emotional for myself to relive and edit that, but I am and I will. And I hope it helps someone else out there feeling a little alone or struggling with their own health issues or a friend's or a family member's. What I have found through podcasting is women supporting women is not just like a flippant statement. Us sharing our stories connects us to other women. Us sharing our stories helps other women. Us sharing our story helps us by being connected to other women. And so that's what this podcast is all about. And I cannot wait to share that episode with you as well. So the podcast is back and better than ever. And I am so excited to share all of these amazing women that I have met through podcasting. And I know you're going to enjoy Madison's episode. I know you're going to enjoy Melissa's. And there are many, many more to come. Thank you for being with me, for sticking with me, for coming back as I come back to the podcast and share my own stories as well as many others. This is a labor of love for me, but it's also a business. And I really, really want to connect with more people like you. And I want to share what I've learned so that I can help you podcast your story too. Everybody has a story to tell, and every story matters. So I'm here to help you share that story with the world.